Chapter 4. The Mountain Pass. The second horse, a sturdy brown mare with a gentle temperament, had barely been with them a day before Tobin took it upon himself to name her. "Greta," he declared. Soren gave him a sidelong glance. "Why Greta?" Tobin shrugged. "Reminds me of the innkeep." Soren snorted. The innkeep Greta had been a stout woman with a sharp tongue, notorious for chasing off drunkards with a wooden spoon. The horse was nothing like her, calm, quiet, and far less likely to hurl a pot at someone's head. But there was no arguing with Tobin once he'd set his mind to something. They left Kaiserath at dawn, following the worn dirt path leading southeast. The city quickly faded behind them, replaced by towering spruce and jagged cliffs. The deeper they ventured, the more the trees swelled in size. "Have you ever seen trees this big?" Tobin scribbled in his notes. "No," Soren added in his own hand beneath it, "but they make travel difficult." Difficult was an understatement. The dense forest forced them off the narrow trails, leaving them to weave through undergrowth and gnarled roots. More than once, they had to dismount and lead the horses on foot, squeezing between ancient trunks wrapped in ivy. Every so often the sound of a snapping branch or the rustle of unseen creatures made Tobin jump. The boy, as expected, spent the journey complaining. Tobin's grievances, recorded for posterity, Soren scrawled in his journal later that evening. 1. It's too hot. 2. We don't have enough food. 3. When are we getting to another city? 4. My feet hurt. 5. I'm thirsty. 6. Why is your face always so serious? 7. I miss beds. 8. I really miss beds. By the time they cleared the thick of the forest, Tobin's mood had soured entirely. But then, the trees gave way to something new. An open stretch of rolling plains, endless wildflowers swaying beneath the crisp mountain air. Ribbons of clear water cut through the land, shimmering beneath the afternoon sun. Vast flower fields, cool water, and open sky. "This is the most beautiful place we've seen yet," Tobin wrote. Ahead of them, the snow-capped peak of a lone mountain loomed, its white summit stretching as high as the eye could see. At its base, tucked into a rocky alcove, they found shelter, an open cave blanketed in soft, velvety moss. Tobin flopped onto the ground with a dramatic sigh. "Finally, somewhere nice to sleep." Soren glanced at the boy. "You do realize it's still a cave?" "Yes, but a nice cave," Tobin muttered, curling into his cloak. Night fell swiftly, bringing with it an eerie silence. The warmth of the day gave way to a sharp chill, the wind whispering through the crags. Just as Soren began to drift off, a strange sound echoed from somewhere below. A gurgling, a deep, wet sound, as if something was shifting beneath the very earth. Soren sat up instantly. He wasn't the only one. "We heard strange noises beneath the cave," Tobin's shaky writing noted later. "Something growling, groaning. We thought it might be a bear, but it didn't sound like one." Soren kept a hand on his sword through the night. Neither of them slept well. By morning, the noises had faded, and with no sign of danger, they pressed forward. The mountain pass was kinder than the forest, its slopes leading them gently into a valley. And at its edge, nestled at the foot of a cherry grove, sat a small village. It was hardly more than a collection of thatched roof cottages, with a single dirt road winding through its center. Farmers tended their fields, and the scent of fresh bread wafted from a lone bakery. They traded for supplies, dried meat, fresh bread, apples for the horses. But there was no inn here, no place to stay. Tobin scowled. Not even one bed. Soren sighed. Not even one. Small village past the mountain. Good food, nice people, no beds. Tobin's final note for the day read. Chapter 5. Across the endless sands, about a half a day's ride, they saw in the far distance a desert. By nightfall, they had been on the edge of desert and plains. They chose to spend the night there. The moment they stepped into the desert, Tobin began complaining. At first it was occasional grumbling, something about sand getting in his boots or the sun making his hair too hot. But as the days stretched on, the complaints evolved into grand declarations of suffering. "This is how we die," he said dramatically on the fourth day, slumping onto his horse. "Two noble brothers, lost to the cruel sands, never to be seen again." Soren rolled his eyes. "We have water. We have food. We're not dying." "No, but we are melting. I'm going to be nothing but a puddle with freckles by the time we get out of here." The desert truly seemed endless, a sea of shifting white dunes that rolled on for what felt like eternity. Every time they thought they saw the end, it was just another mirage, another stretch of blinding sand. Then, slowly, the landscape began to change. The pristine dunes gave way to burnt orange hills, the sand beneath their feet thickening into something more solid. The air smelled different, drier, dustier, like clay baking in the sun. The white sands had turned to red. Soren's notes. "If anyone back home asks how long it takes to cross the dune expanse, the answer is too long. The sand turns red after 3 weeks. And so does your patience for your little brother's endless whining." They saw no one for a month, not a soul. Tobin was convinced they were the last people left in the world. "Maybe everyone else is dead," he mused one evening by the fire. "Or maybe they had the sense not to travel through the middle of nowhere," Soren replied. Then, at last, civilization appeared in the distance. The red hills sloped down into a shimmering coastline, where white stone walls and sandstone towers rose against a sky that melted into the sea. The air was thick with salt and spice, and as they rode closer, they saw a harbor packed with ships, sleek foreign vessels, their sails painted with vibrant patterns, and small fishing boats bobbing along the glowing coral reefs. The city of Bu Nathal was unlike anything they had seen before.